Few tales as this, Romeo and Juliet, have inspired the imagination so. Hundreds of years after Shakespeare, and yet, the list of adaptations continually grow. Operas and ballets, musicals too, not to mention symphonic works, quartets, film scores, rock and disco, to name a few, convey the tragedy we can't forget. Unparalleled is the bard's influence on composers and musicians alike. Add to our literary experience, no doubt a time when inspiration strikes. And now for music about this duo, we hope that you'll enjoy our video. William Shakespeare's plays and poems have such musicality that it's no wonder his works have inspired countless composers, opera producers, and ballet directors, among others. The tragic plot of Romeo and Juliet was based on an Italian folktale that appeared in different versions throughout 15th and 16th century Europe. It is only fitting then that there are dozens of operas based on the story. This includes numerous Italian opera versions, from Zingarelli's opera that premiered in 1796 at the La Scala Opera House, to Bellini's version written for the 1830 carnival season at La Fenice. In fact, after seeing a performance of the play and reviewing Bellini's opera, Hector Berlioz was moved to create one of his most original works, his Symphonie Dramatique, a large-scale choral symphony composed of vocal soloists, chorus, and orchestra. With a generous gift of 20,000 francs from famed violin virtuoso Paganini, Berlioz was able to complete the composition, which premiered in 1839. Romeo and Juliet was famously adapted for opera outside of Italy as well. In 1776, Georg Benda wrote his Singspiel, a form of German opera with spoken dialogue interspersed with songs. Benda's work influenced later composers, including Mozart. In 1867, a new opera by Charles Gounod premiered in Paris, becoming a critical success. Gounod composed his setting of Romeo and Juliet with the help of librettists who kept the story reasonably close to the original, except for the ending. In his version, Juliet wakes up just in time to see Romeo before he dies, allowing them to sing in unison one last time. The work is frequently revived today. A favorite among musicians and audiences, the central love theme of Tchaikovsky's Romeo and Juliet Fantasy Overture is frequently used in television series and movies. This symphonic poem that encapsulates the tragic love story went through 3 stages of revisions, reaching its final form in 1880. Tchaikovsky's work reflected the trend of program music, instrumental descriptive music that flourished during the Romantic period, a time when music developed close links with literature. Rather than portraying the play's events in order, he juxtaposes a variety of characters for musical contrast. Tchaikovsky uses 3 main themes as the basis of different sections of the work in order to represent elements from the story. This device of repeating the same musical theme at different times has been used by subsequent film directors as well. In the end, the romantic theme takes precedence, symbolizing a love that conquers all. Tchaikovsky was not the only Russian composer who was deeply inspired by Shakespeare. Sergei Prokofiev's score for Romeo and Juliet is one of the most popular of all ballet compositions. However, his original work was heavily criticized before it was ever accepted and performed by a ballet company. In 1934, Prokofiev was commissioned to write the score for the Kirov Ballet in what was then the Soviet Union. After the collaboration fell through, he presented his music to the Bolshoi Ballet, whose dancers dismissed it as impossible to choreograph. The complete ballet finally reached the stage in 1938. 2 years later, the Kurov Ballet, following significant alterations in the score, premiered Romeo and Juliet, followed by the Bolshoi Ballet in 1946. In the meantime, Prokofiev had extracted from the ballet score 3 orchestral suites and 10 piano pieces, still being performed to this day. Other classical composers have been influenced by the play, as well as musicians, rock bands, and pop artists. Although there have been several musical theater adaptations of Romeo and Juliet, arguably the most well-known is West Side Story, a contemporary adaptation that debuted on Broadway in 1957. In 1968, the accompanying soundtrack to Franco Zeffirelli's film adaptation of Romeo and Juliet received nearly as much critical praise as the film itself. One of Nino Rota's most memorable scores, numerous arrangements have since been released, most notably of the timeless love theme. Soundtrack albums of subsequent adaptations of Romeo and Juliet may not have reached the same level of popularity, but contribute to each film's unique interpretation of the story. As evidenced by the sheer variety of musical tributes, the legacy of Romeo and Juliet has traversed boundaries of genre and language. Shakespeare's mastery of lyricism continues to inspire musical expressions the world over.